All right, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome to another edition of Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam. And today we're looking at the dropped, or so to speak, now the aborted um, gender equality bill that caused a lot of furore in Nigeria's social media circles in the past week. The bill got to its second reading, and then it didn't get to pass that stage. The first reading was done sometime in October, but the bill was first introduced in the House sometime in 2010. However, joining me today to look at this, we have Zara Musa. She is an engineer and a research scientist. Zara, good afternoon and welcome on board.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Also joining me is Abimbola Junaid. Abimbola is a development and policy specialist. Abimbola, thanks for coming on board as well.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So let me come back to you, Zara. You came here first. Let me just understand. What do you make of the bill? I mean, there's been so much furore, in Nigeria's social media circles. People saying this, saying that, a lot of twists. But what do you make of the outcome of the bill generally?
First of all, I would say the reactions have been very positive mostly. People have actually shown that they would have liked a better debate, and they would have appreciated if the bill was given at least a chance to be understood first before being thrown out of the House. But on the outcome of the bill in the House itself, I would say is quite unfortunate. There are a number of factors that have, of course, contributed to that. We know now. One of which is the fact that many people didn't know much about it, and it would not be surprising if most of the senators never read it before voting against it. So the outcome has been unfortunate, mostly because of lack of information. That's my opinion.
Oh, no doubt there's been a shortage of information, since the bill was first introduced back in 2010. But I mean, but let me just come back to you now. Zara has just made her own submission as to what she feels about this. But in your own estimation, what do you think the implications of the bill not going past where it went in the House? What would be the implications?
Well, it does have huge implications, and I would say the most implication it would have is actually reinforcing the stereotype that women and girls do not have their own human rights, and that, is still largely patriarchal. And it's simply going to put all the good works, all the good efforts in trying to end the basic human um, issues in the eyes of everybody. And without a strong law in place, reinforcing the minds of and women that they're still second fiddle. And at the end of the day, when you say that 50% of the society should become people without rights, people without contributions to the society being acknowledged, in the sources of the Nigerian society would not be accounted for. And I think that that isn't the way forward for any nation that truly wants to compete on the global stage.
All right, Abimbola, you were breaking while you were making that contribution along the line, but then I could see Zara was nodding her head. But just to confirm, Zara, were you doing that in conformity of what she was saying?
Unfortunately, it was breaking, like you said. She said, for example, that a nation that wants to move forward cannot in any way play around with the future of 50% of its population. And making 50% of your population to feel they have no rights cannot help a country that wants to compete in any way on the global scale. And another point she made, of course, is that the bill itself was misunderstood. So yeah, I agree with all those points she was talking about.
Yeah, all right. So she also talked about, having, if like you again restated that if we want a country that wants to, be up there, amongst the top nations, if it
So 60% of it.
okay, Dr. Mken is coming on board. If she's okay, she's saying that it is not going to work out well if the bill should never see the day of the light. So let's just even look at other countries that, so to speak, now that this law, women have, so to speak, almost an equal um, level of rights with the men. Can you list any other country that you've seen and how successful they have been?
Well, I think it would be a given for us to know that most of the Western countries have given equal rights to women. But I wouldn't say that it's a matter of how many countries have done that, but the fact that those countries that have recognized that women must be allowed, for example, to compete in terms of education, in terms of equal opportunities, to make their life better, that those countries have indeed developed. For example, I am in the Netherlands right now, and here there's virtually no discrimination against women in any opportunity at all. And for you to come out and say, for example, that you're having a strong wife, or if your wife is has a mind of her own, that means she's going to dominate you, to be very alien in this country. And we haven't seen cases where there is fighting, or the men are being turned into whatever it is that Nigerian men are afraid of. So the most of Europe, I would say the whole of it, and of course we know all the countries around Latin America and the Americas themselves uh, also have equal rights for women. And we know that those are the developed parts of the world, for example.
All right, very well, Zara Musa, giving us some examples. But we also see Dr. Nkem, she's been trying to come on, but she's been coming on and off. At a point, I was able to see her picture. But if you can hear me, Dr. Nkem, once again, good afternoon. Unfortunately, we still can't hear her. We still can't hear her, so we'll have to come back again later to see if we can hear her. But I mean, but let me just come back to you again. Zara just made let me just put it this way, a comparative analysis, looking at other countries that have equal rights with men, and looking at how Nigeria is, or the fears that Nigerian men supposedly have. I don't think I have that fear. Let me just put that straight. All right, what would you be saying? I mean, also in that line and trying to compare, Nigeria with other countries, in terms of equal opportunities, like you said, in education, jobs, marriages. What would you like to say on that?
Well, the most important thing that I really want to emphasize is the importance in terms of the quality of the debate, in terms of why the bill should be passed. It was very frivolously passed, into saying that it shouldn't be passed because of some basic excuses, such as religion, such as differentiation in culture and in religion. And I think what is so important in this day and age, which our distinguished senators should realize, is about where we are in terms of our economic development, economic contributions. We are gradually moving away from oil. We're talking about being a part of the SDGs. We're talking about diversification of the economy. Women are in all of these sectors already contributing. But what we're saying is that when you pass this bill, it makes it more concrete for the society to acknowledge that human contribution in terms of work, in terms of labor, in terms of human capital, knowledge, and every other perspective that they contribute to nation building is what truly is sustainable. And it is comparable to Union countries, quality of market maximizing their human, you were joking earlier, but the time of when the families just had a child or a baby. And that's good for the society. It isn't good for now you find that many households are head changing because these are not thing benefits. They are things in their it isn't a joke when we're saying this bill is human would understand what.
Well, internet seems to be coming in between us and this conversation with Abimbola again. That brings us to the issue of internet in Nigeria.
But I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we're here. I can hear you now. Go ahead. You were breaking for a while. Can you hear me? Oh, again, we're losing the internet with Abimbola tonight. But Zara, let me just come back to you before we get that sorted out. She was, bringing the discussion, to another level, looking at talking about factors that mainly made the bill not to be able to pass, the second reading in the House. First and foremost, for one, I believe that there was no much campaign about the bill. So, and I think that made people or even the senators not to have an inkling as to what the whole bill was. But she also brought about the issue of, she said, okay, she's now began to talk about religion, sensitization, mobilization. But thankfully, the Senate president has said, or he is advising Nigerian women to make that bill come back, to reintroduce the bill. How do you think we should be going, or how do you think Nigerian women should be going about this now, since the Senate president himself is saying that, okay, bring this bill back and we'll see what we can do?
Well, first and foremost, I would say the bill should be presented not from the perspective of being a men versus women bill. It's not a bill that should be seen as women rising up against women against men to fight them or to be aggressive to them. It should be a bill that should be presented from the fact that women want to be recognized as human beings and to be allowed to have the rights that a normal human being should have. Women are not asking for more than that. And first and foremost, I would say the problem of the bill starts even from the title of the bill. Typically in most countries, in most cultures in Nigeria, when you start talking about equality, most men feel their wives are trying to compete with them and to say they're not the heads of the family. Our culture says, of course, that men are the heads of the family. So a man is not going to exchange that for anything. And I think the title of the bill itself already killed the bill before some of the members of the Senate, because to them it was an aggression against their territory, which is their home and their lives and all that. So first of all, we have to start from even retitling the bill, from enlightenment, from making the topics in the bill known and making the wordings as understandable as possible, as simple as possible, as uncomplicated as possible, so that it's not something that people misunderstand. Let A be equal to A and B be equal to B. I know it's supposed to be a legal document, but it should be written in such a language that is not just full of legal jargons that a typical Nigerian man or woman would be confused by what it means. So if we start from that level of even letting the women themselves know, because as we talk now, you would think that every woman is for this bill. No, I've seen a lot of not just tweets, Facebook posts. I've listened to some women talk. I was privileged to watch a video, for example, of a church meeting, and a group of women pastors were actually saying the same thing that the men in the Senate were saying, which was very, very heartbreaking for me. So even women need to be enlightened as to what this bill means. It's not saying go and fight your husband. It's not saying don't cook for your husband. That's not what the bill is saying. The bill is saying. So we need to put out the factors in the bill out there. This is what the bill is saying, A, B, and C, and make it as clear as possible. That's number one. And before we now take it to the Senate, then the bill should be retitled. Please, I think the title is sort of aggressive when you say that it is gender equality bill. Yesterday, I saw a tweet from the Minister for Women's Affairs, Jumai Al-Hassan, and she mentioned there, she called the bill the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill. To me, that says it better, brings out the message in a very clear way, so that you know, women are just looking for equal opportunity. For example, a factor I have seen, I've read the bill now. I was able to download it and I read it. And I would say that it is basically a bill that nobody should be afraid of. If there are issues in the bill we should talk about, we should sit down and talk about it. When a bill is presented to the National Assembly, it's not just supposed to be an A and nay thing. It's supposed to be something that should be debated, should be talked about, should be discussed. Let's argue about it. Let's amend the places that we're not comfortable with. Nigeria is made up of over 500 tribes. And of course, cultures differ, traditions differ. We can bring in the different clauses. Let's discuss as a people and decide, okay, for my area or for this is not right. Let's put it this way and let's talk about it and let's understand each other and then make it a bill that is all encompassing. At the end of the day, not everybody will say yes, of course, but at the end of the day, a majority will understand it and then we'll be able to move forward from there.
Oh, okay. But from my understanding, I think the bill is titled Gender Parity and Prohibition of Violence Against Women. Does that sound okay? Now
Well,
talking about
yes.
renaming the name of the bill.
Yes, that sounds a lot better. We talk about parity, but what does parity mean? I mean, Nigerians, we like to use we like to pick up words from that people use internationally, and sometimes within the local people, we just don't understand it. You would have to explain what parity means. For example, we know non-violence against women. Everybody understands that as long as you speak English. But what does parity mean?
Oh, we'll find out. All right. Then, secondly, I wanted to ask. So, do you think because of late, I mean, there's been a lot of people who come, like you said, on Twitter, Facebook posts, and all that, talking about now the whom claim are feminists. Do you think they should be brought on board? Do you think civil society organizations should also be brought to the table, consulted again, so that a better way would be followed in presenting the bill before the National Assembly?
Well, I, for one, would like the civil society to come in. And the reason why I would say that is because civil society have been working in a lot of gray areas that probably a lot of us have not been to. I've had a little argument with a friend a few days ago, a lady for that matter, and she was skeptical that there's a culture in Nigeria where women are not allowed to inherit. Now, we know that there are cultures like that in Nigeria where it is just the male that inherits or just the firstborn that inherits. So, those are problematic areas. And we have NGOs that have been working in such areas. They have the facts, they have the documents, so they can present it in a clearer and way such that everybody can understand that, yeah, this is true. They have the documents and everything. It's not a matter of just being frivolous. So I would like the civil society to be involved in this. I would like every civil society, for example, not just the one that has to do anything with gender, the ones that have to do with health, the ones that have to do with family issues, the ones that even have to do with scientific and human resources issues. If they can come in and contribute to make this bill understandable, it would be very, very good.
All right. Let's wait and see how that plays out. The bill should be coming back to the Senate in a very nearest future, because the Senate President is saying that the Nigerian women should bring that bill back.
Yes.
But till then, we have to wait and see how that plays out, how Nigerian women will gather themselves together and make a good presentation before the National Assembly, and hopefully they will get to ensure that they properly regroup, mobilize, sensitize, and engage the senators on the need for the bill to see the light of the day. But for now, our other contributors, Dr. Nkemo Sugwe and Abimbola Junaid, I think they're having problems with their internet and have fallen out of the chat. So I guess we'll just have to wrap it up instead of just waiting. But just before we go, let me just take your last word on what you'd like to see moving forward, Sarah.
Like I've said, I would like to see the bill, more information about the bill to be shared to Nigerians. I would like to see that people understand the bill. So there should be some enlightenment campaigns from those that are really pushing the bill out there in the House and even the Minister of Women's Affairs. I would like to see them talk to women about it, because sometimes women are the greatest opposition to their own good. Talk to women about it. Talk to men about it. We have a lot of men on board. Let's try and bring in more. Let's try and make people understand so that they don't think it's an aggression against them. Nobody likes to be oppressed. And once our men feel like they are about to be oppressed, they are going to fight it. And so we need to make them know that this is what it says, A, B, and C, not what you've been hearing others claim that is in there, because a lot of lies have been peddled around about the bill that are not in the bill also. So I'd like to see this enlightenment and information shared before the bill goes into the House. And I would like to really say that the title of the bill needs a change. We need to change it. Thank you.
All right, very well. Zara Musa, engineer and research scientist living in Netherlands, Rotterdam specifically. Thank you for coming on the program this afternoon and sharing your thoughts. It's been a pleasure to have you. But then, um, again, like I said, we'll have to wait and see how things move and progress from where they are at the moment. But once again, thanks for coming on board and sharing your thoughts with us this afternoon on the program. Well, that's where we have to wrap it up today on this edition of the program. My name is Victor Matthias, and this is a Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam.